All right, so I've got 30 sources that are going to be reviewed and written up as part of my annotated bibliography. Right, fairly short write-ups, 2-paragraph write-ups for each of these 30 sources. Now, how is it that I sift out what the, you see, because you said we're looking for the best sources.
Sure.
How do I know what the best sources are? And so I guess this goes to a question of evaluating different kinds of literature and the credibility of that literature.
What is the literature? It's written materials. It's now also, people would include it in other kinds of electronic media.
Sure.
CD-ROM, video, you name it. But essentially, historically, traditionally, whatever, we're talking about published material. And the issue is, just as you raised, is there's a lot of stuff out there. Just because somebody puts something in print, how authoritative is it?
Right.
Is it authoritative at all? Is what this person says have any value? And that's always a process you go through. And I've always described it as sort of a hierarchy of the literature. You tend to have a ladder, if you will, of credibility, and you can actually sort those literature sources by that.
So another word for credibility is like academic respectability.
Academic respectability, legitimacy.
Yeah.
Veracity, how truthful is it? How accurate is it?
And the stuff, we're looking to press students up into, as best we can, into the highest levels of the literature.
That's right. Because I could write a story about, what I did to motivate people, let's say. Oh, and this really worked. Boy, it was great. And I put it in a certain kind of magazine that's sort of a trade journalish type of thing. Well, there's nothing wrong with that stuff. It's beneficial. It's very helpful. But if I can access another journal that is a little more research-based and says, these are some motivational processes that work. And the reason why we think they work is because we've done all this research on it, and we've done it at X amount of companies and X amount of organizations, and we've interviewed people, and we've done questionnaires, and we've done observations. That's a lot of data to support the fact that these motivational techniques worked and these didn't, versus me saying, at my company, this is what I've done, and this really worked. There's, again, nothing wrong with best practices, but if you want to get more credibility and more authoritative and get more insight, you do want to move up that ladder, so you're looking for journals that are more what we would call refereed or peer-reviewed. Somebody had to look at those and say, that's got something of value.
Okay, so you mentioned 2 ways that you might be able to identify what we call the primary literature.
Yes.
The best, the most credible literature. And that is literature that is research-based, that's built upon data of some kind, and also literature that is reviewed or refereed. So certain journals have to meet, the articles that are submitted are reviewed. They have to meet certain levels of, certain criteria for inclusion. And so that increases the confidence that when you look in this journal, this is primary.
Yeah, there's something behind it more than just 1 or 2 or whatever, 3 people's perspective, anecdotal perspective. It's got its value, its credibility is in something just beyond one person's perspective. Here's an example. The Journal of Leadership Studies, and you can, this is something that we do get here in the department, comes out several times a year. This journal, the articles in here are reviewed by a group of people, and they say, yes, these articles meet the criterion for our journal, and we can publish it. And in fact, here's an article by Joseph Rost, and so he's included in this one. Now, this is another one. This is HR magazine. It's a very good magazine. It's the standard Society for Human Resource Management publication. Most of the articles in here, however, are written by people who are giving anecdotal story accounts of things, and not necessarily, I'm not saying every time, but generally they're not based on some sort of theoretical or conceptual framework.
Some of the people would be staff writers, more popular writers to a wider user audience.
Yes, and there's a...
So all sorts of trade journals would fall
Sure.
into this category.
That's right, that's right.
And then there's even other literature, other magazines that are made for a more popular audience.
Yeah, you have Newsweek, and you have one that you like, I know, Cosmopolitan. But just kidding. But there's
You meant GQ.
The GQ guy. There's the popular literature, and that you see at the newsstands a lot. But what we're saying is, we're not suggesting that you not include this in your literature review. We're just saying that we want you to be able to access literature that is research-based, is peer-reviewed, is solid, as well as this sort of material. And in addition, we have texts as well. We have a variety of textbooks that you can access on these topics. And again, when a textbook is published and it's gone through a process of review, there tends to be a bit more credibility there. But
so you were telling me the difference, say, between books that folks are familiar with from 505, Roth's book and Eucl's book.
Yes. Ross would be a primary source. It's his stuff. This is my theory. This is my baby.
Right.
Euclid, on the other hand, is more survey-oriented. He does talk about his own perspectives, but he's pulled in a collection of other people's work because that's the purpose of his book, to give you this broad perspective.